New product discovery is one of the most important tasks designers face today, right? The challenge of simply working with the brands you know is hard enough, and it's changing so fast. So today we're diving into a new brand because discovery is amazing and it's good to have new partners. So we're going to look at a new brand, new to you, and we're talking about color, chemistry, and culture. A whole new approach to what goes on your walls. You're about to learn from Crowne and Latimer, the visionary duo behind Alkemis paint, a brand attempting to redefine the paint industry through sustainability, style, and substance. And I know that these three things are buzzwords to many, but as you're going to hear, it's not that to Maya and Price. So I think you're going to find this really interesting because launched in 2023, after over 3 years of rigorous R&D, Alkemist was born out of the pandemic with a mission to eliminate toxic chemicals from our living spaces and replace them with mineral-based, eco-conscious, air-purifying alternatives. But this isn't just about cleaner paint. It's about redefining how we think about surfaces, health, and design. And I think these are conversations we've been having since the pandemic, and they're more important now than they've ever been before. With a background steeped in creativity and a love for reggae and dub influencing their bold palette, Maya and Price are creating more than color. They're creating a movement. And we're going to talk about the science behind their unique formula, the challenges of launching a purpose-driven product in a tough market, and why education, authenticity, and collaboration are core to their growth. This is a story about design with depth, color, and conscience, and paint that actually breathes. No, really. And we're going to get into it right after this. At the highest level of design, the absolute best specifying designers, architects, landscape designers are all highly focused on the technology and performance of products and materials today. You have to, because the products you specify for your projects have to perform and they have to last. That's one of the reasons why I am so proud to be working with TimberTech. Their focus on the technical renaissance of synthetic decking is literally changing the conversation about innovation and performance. It pulls focus on three priorities homeowners have and expect from the products their designers and architects specify for their luxury projects. 1, aesthetics must match the overall design and fit visually. 2, durability and maintenance. I've told you about my board flipping stories from my own wood decks. Clients not only want beauty, but they want ease of use, and they want it to last for decades. 3, sustainably made. Clients are more conscious of the environment now, and they want the same of their materials. TimberTech hits each one of these elements with a product that not only meets expectations, they exceed them. TimberTech makes a synthetic decking that looks just like wood, color and embossed wood grain for a natural appearance. Their composite decking is technologically superior, as it has been created to last for decades, and it's manufactured with up to 85% recycled material. Their advanced PVC, vintage, and landmark collections have a Class A flame spread rating, making these products an amazing choice for wildfire-prone areas, which unfortunately continues to grow on the risk map. Check the show notes for more information about this and to find the nearest showroom or lumberyard where you can find TimberTech, or you can check them out directly, timbertech.com. I love that there are no questions before we get going. It's the best.
No questions.
So
we've done this one or two times before.
You have done this one or two times before, which is funny because we met at KBiz. You were doing another show in the KBiz podcast studio, which I was hosting. They asked me to host it. It was so much fun. I love doing it, and I got to meet people like you.
Well, it was so much fun for us to be there. We were just discussing, it was our first time at KBiz.
Yeah.
And such a great opportunity to network and meet so many people and listen to other, brands talk about what they're doing, and, listen to panel discussions and go around and actually physically see all these different booths of innovative products.
So this being the first time that you've gone, why hadn't you gone before? I'm just curious. And part of that same question is, do you go to a lot of trade events?
Well, so the reason why we haven't gone before is because we're only 2 years old. So technically, this is like, let's see, KBIS was in February. In February of last year, we would have been like maybe 7 months old. So this was when it sort of made sense for us to go for the first time. As it relates to will we be at other trade shows, certainly there's an overwhelming amount of trade shows and design fairs. We have been a little more focused on the design fair, even art fair, as a way of differentiating ourselves. We have been the official paint partner of Design Miami for the last 2 years, as an example, which I don't really know if that qualifies. I guess that's really more of a design fair than it is a trade show. But, we're open and available to all opportunities. And we've been at High Point. We were there for the first time in October of last year. We're going to be there again for the spring show. One of our sales representatives is going to be there representing Alkemis, and Price and I will be there in October of this year. So, but that's not to say that there aren't other things that we'll be going to. Our schedules are kind of crazy right now.
Yeah, I bet. So let's back up a second. I don't know why, but I didn't think you were 2 years old. I thought you'd been around longer than that. Give me the backstory.
Yeah, we're babies, and this is our paint baby together, Maya and I like to say. And Alkemis is a product of the pandemic, really. And I'll pass the baton off to Maya, and she can talk about how and why this idea came to her during the pandemic. But yeah, we're quite new.
Yeah, so putting a little more context into that, there's much of a backstory, but in 2019, I was taking classes at the New York Academy of Art after work. I was working at American Express. I definitely have always been a conscious consumer. I care a lot about eating organic. I have gotten even a little crazier than that now. It's like I've gone through stages of being vegan, but I do eat meat, but I always want it to be pasture raised, grass fed, like responsibly farmed, all of the above. I feel the same way about skincare. I feel the same way about cleaning materials. And I also happen to love art. So I was taking classes at the New York Academy of Art. The school shut down during the pandemic, and I was looking for a creative project to do because I really loved the way that I was exercising the right side of my brain. So I thought maybe I'd repaint my apartment in New York City. And I went to a local hardware store. I was wearing my N95 mask, as we all were at the time. I was in the zero VOC section, and I started to smell that familiar paint smell fume. And painting isn't something that people do regularly. So I'm just simply not used to having that level of chemical odor in my face, to be totally frank. And I thought it would be really hard for me to repaint my apartment in New York City, considering the fact that I couldn't leave. And I also have a number of neighbors down the street, and everyone was concerned about breathing at the time. So I had the question as to why is it that paint smells so bad? And so I went home, I did a little bit of research, and it was very easy to see that 95% of the paint that we use globally is acrylic or latex or some combination of the two. That by definition is derived from fossil fuels. And so we're effectively painting our walls with plastic, which is why it tends to smell so bad. And I knew from the fact that I had been going to art school that, we've obviously been painting our spaces long before the advent of plastic, and there had to be a better way. And that was really how the whole journey started. Price and I coincidentally met in the same year at a wellness retreat in Santa Fe. And briefly mentioned this idea to her, not knowing that she had this super extensive in art and design, but also in naturopathy and, holistic healing and all different types of things that we had aligned on. So that was really the beginning. And then after 3.5 years of R&D, we launched our paint baby into the world in May of 2023 for NYC by Design.
Interesting. So I'm curious what the response was. Sometimes when you do something new, it requires a lot of explanation. And I'm just curious, did you have to, do you have to explain the product, or is there a general acceptance?
Well, I think it's twofold, right? And we like to come at, approaching marketing and communication of our product from different ways, right? Because one of the fundamental things that we like to convey is that, having very high aesthetics or something being really beautiful, as well as it being environmentally friendly and good for human health, like those things don't have to be mutually exclusive. So there's a very large educational component of what we're doing, because I always like to say, I went to Parsons, I went to the Rhode Island School of Design. I've been very intimately involved in the art world, the interiors world, the furniture world, and I wasn't fully aware of what was going on with the material health of interior paint. And once Maya and I did this deep dive and did all this research, it was like, whoa, okay. So now I feel, like we have a duty and honor to share this information with people. And so there is this misconception that like all paint is created equal, right? And so, we can't tell you how many jobs, people want to spec Alkemis and the contractor's like, no, just use this instead. Just use this instead. But the fundamental difference is that our paint is mineral-based. So our binder is mineral-based and our pigments are mineral-based, all natural, non-toxic, made from crushed up rocks and crystals. Whereas conventional paint, like Maya mentioned, we use 95% of the paint we use globally is latex acrylic. And that is fundamentally, derived from petrochemicals. So that's really the big difference to convey to people, which sometimes takes a little bit of time. And, there is a litany of advantageous benefits about Alkemis, both from a performance, health, and environmental perspective, but it's almost so much information to convey to people. You have to take these little nuggets, and it's been really interesting from a marketing and visual communication standpoint, like what people gravitate to, like what people respond to really, get that information out there. But like I was saying in the beginning, whatever it takes to get people interested. And for a lot of people, that's because the paint is really beautiful and really striking and really luminous and really stunning when they go into a space, and they feel grounded because it's made from natural materials instead of chemicals. Or some people will find us because they're specifically looking for healthier paint. So yeah, it just depends on what angle people get to us, but we'll take all of it.
So you have 119 colors.
Correct.
You can still customize as you would traditional paint. What's the difference? What's the difference as far as
Sure.
as far as performative value?
Well, from a performative value perspective, there are a number of differences. So should I start on color or should I start on performative value?
Start on
let
color.
me know in what
Start
direction.
on color.
Okay. So from a color perspective, we use 10 natural pigments, which is also unique to our process. A lot of times conventional paints will use synthetic pigments, which will be applied to a dark or light base. We all kind of conceptually know this if you've ever been to a Home Depot to go get a paint mixed or something like that. These synthetic pigments can be thought of similarly, and granted, everybody has their own secret sauce. I'm just talking in generalities, but as dyes, right? So sometimes when you're working with dark colors, a lot of feedback that we've gotten from people is that you'll need like 5 or 6 coats, especially for like reds or blues or yellows for some reason. Our paint, we only use 10 natural mineral pigments, which are the same pigments that we've been using since the dawn of time. So you can think about pigments that have been found in the Blombos caves. As a function of that, our coverage from a performance perspective is outstanding. A lot of painters that work with our product who have used a lot of different very high-end products are completely blown away by the amount of color saturation you can get with 1 to 2 coats. I mean, I think that that is one of the notable performative benefits from if you're a painter, as an example, which they always say like time is money. I can be in and out of a job really quickly. Of course, maybe if you're a consumer who's hired a painter, you may not be as keenly aware of some of those differences. One of the things to call out from a color perspective is that we have a very wide range of color. We also do custom color matching. So if that is something that you're interested in, you can send us a paint swatch or just the name. We might already have it on file of a conventional paint color. We can let you know if it's something that we can color match. We do have some relatively small limitation, especially compared to other, like clay-based paints. Like, I mean, ours is mineral-based, but there are like clay-based paints that people have used historically, or plasters or things like that, that have some limitation in color. We have a pretty wide range, but we're never going to be able to do like a neon Barbie pink. We're never going to be able to do like a chartreuse green. I would assume that that's not most people's aesthetic choice for a space, but I always like to call that out because we are limited in, colors that exist in nature. And then from a performance perspective, so I've already talked about the incredible hiding nature, and that has to do with the fact, obviously, that our paint is made out of rock instead of plastic. But just to put some scientific context into that, that means 40% more solids than conventional paint. The paint weighs 14 pounds a gallon, where conventional paints weigh about 7 pounds a gallon. So she's a big girl, she's heavy, but there's, performance benefit, obviously, from a color saturation standpoint. In addition to that, okay, so where do I even start? So rock doesn't burn, where plastic does. So our paint is certified Class A fire resistant naturally. It is also, minerals are high in alkaline. And so it's naturally anti-mold and antifungal, as an example. It's really great for humid spaces like bathrooms. It will absorb condensation because it's vapor permeable. Conventional paints are a lot like wrapping your walls with saran wrap. So if there's moisture in the air, you'll get beading on top of the surface. You can get water damage behind the paint layer, and we've all seen blistering or peeling of paint from leaks and such. Conventional paints will put biocides and fungicides inside of their paint to make sure that mold doesn't grow in those types of situations. These are not VOCs. These are things that you're breathing in. That's partially contributory to the smell, as an example. Alkemis paint doesn't need that, not only because it's high in pH, but also because it's vapor permeable. If you were to look at it under a microscope, it would look like crushed up rocks, and it's porous. Additionally, it will last 2 to 3 times longer than conventional paints, guaranteed. It will never blister or peel because it will actually form an insoluble bond with the underlying substrate, effectively fusing to the wall. It will never fade because, as I mentioned, it's made out of rock and we're using these mineral pigments. It will last infinitely longer. I don't know. There's so much to call out from a performance perspective, which was really core to when we put this product out in the market. It was important to not only meet conventional paint standards from a performance perspective, because we could talk about a healthy paint all day, but if it wasn't going to stick on the wall, if it was going to be difficult to apply, if it was going to fade over time, that would be problematic for people. And so we always like to level set with people being like, would you rather paint your walls with plastic or rock? it seems really intuitive as to which would be better and last longer, it'd be better for you in the environment. But that's just at a high level, some of the performance benefits. And of course, answering your question about color.
I'd love to interject about one of the recent findings that is super exciting from a performative benefit. And we always knew that Alkemis paint, it purifies the air while drying. And Maya was able to find this incredible lab to do carbon sequestering testing. So we could actually get some data around this. And we were able to quantify that while drying, 1 gallon of Alkemis paint absorbs as much carbon dioxide as 9 trees in one day. So really the polar opposite of conventional paints that can off-gas for up to 10 years.
And does it continue to provide that, or is that just while it's during the drying process?
Just during the drying process.
Got it. Got it. That's pretty cool, though. That is very, very cool. You're listening to my conversation with Maya and Price of Alkemist Paint. We'll be right back. The most important word in the design industry today is service. Product, incredibly important. Price, important. Selection, incredibly important. But stellar service is the premier idea that can make all the difference in the success of any project. This is how design professionals like you demand great service for your projects. And you get your favorite brands in one place with expert, knowledgeable, and non-commissioned professionals to help you specify the right product for each of your projects and get the best price. Non-commissioned, that is incredibly important. And at Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, that means their only incentive is your satisfaction. Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, has just that with over 60 years of service in Southern California. Pacific Sales is your destination for exploration, advice, inspiration, all the best brands, great prices, the best in the industry when it comes to service, and you know it's reliable. You know that you are going to get predictable results, reliable results every time. And now you have the Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home team to help you with their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you've ever experienced before. Earn 3% in Best Buy e-gift cards or 2.5% in a reward check for every qualified and delivered sale, in addition to special trade pricing, exclusive offers, access to exclusive special events, and so much more that I can't even begin to try and list it all here. And here's the cherry on top. Access to exclusive builder trade incentives from top brands and the stellar service you deserve from a company that has been serving the industry for over 60 years. Now, terms and conditions apply to the Pro Rewards program and builder trade incentives. So visit a Pacific Sales expert at a showroom today for full details and learn how you can unlock additional savings and benefits. Don't miss out on the opportunity to work with the best of the best. Visit Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home today and elevate your projects to new heights. So tell me about the manufacturing process. Do you manufacture here or abroad?
We are proudly
manufactured
manufactured in the US.
Yes.
In the US. Because I was gonna ask about availability for raw materials, and especially from a business perspective, how something like tariffs might affect you, but it's not going to unless you're importing raw materials from elsewhere.
We are importing raw materials from elsewhere currently. And this has to do with the quality of the raw materials that we're able to source from the European Alps. It is concerning. I don't entirely know how it's going to play out. So we'll see. We're looking at alternative sources for raw materials, but again, this whole tariff situation is not optimal for many businesses. So to be continued on that.
Well, I mean, look, I like bringing it up because I think it's important that we normalize the conversation. We have to be able to talk about these things instead of, if you have a business, if you're an interior designer, you have a business, right? And if everything you order is going to be 6 to 12 to 25% more expensive than it was last year, you have to have these conversations just because you have to be able to have these conversations with your clients from a business perspective. And you're a young company. So from a business
Yep.
perspective, how do you how do you compete with the companies who have been providing paint for generations? How do you compete?
Well, I think
I mean, how do you, oh, you go ahead, Grace.
well, I think it's really, about the fact that Maya and I truly felt like there was a hole in the market, in the sense that we, as conscious consumers, as she mentioned, felt like there was not an interior paint product that really, satisfied and met our values. So it's less about competing than it is offering an alternative to people who are looking for something different. And I'll pass that off to you, Maya, because I'm sure you'll have some additional insight.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Price makes a really valid point that this is apples and oranges. It's like, how does a glass container compete with a plastic container? I mean, it's just fundamentally a different thing. So if you want to continue to use plastic containers, like by all means, like they both will be able to store things that you need to have stored, but it's up to you as a consumer. And I think that there are many consumers, to Price's point, including obviously the two of us, that are willing to spend a little bit more because we would rather have something that lasts, that doesn't impact our health, that's better for the environment, that we can put, in a microwave if you do heat things up in the microwave, or at a minimum, if there's like something warm that you put inside of it, it's not going to negatively impact like, the food that is inside. Like it's the same thing. So we're not competing with conventional paint companies on a like for like product. When it comes to, the question of like, how do we compete in an environment of tariffs and cost? I mean, that is something that, is just ever evolving. And I think that, it goes back to the core difference that this is not the same product as what's available currently in the market. And so, we always like to say we hope people are at least moving towards different types of opportunities to buy better and buy less, to buy things that are going to last them a longer time, that they won't have to put so much labor towards over time. And that's how we really, change the consumer mindset is, how do we buy things that will last longer, over time, essentially, and buy better and buy less.
So is the plan to go consumer facing, or is it to work primarily with the design trade?
Well, our business currently is about 50-50. And we really spent the first year hitting, boots on the ground, meeting with designers, architects, developers, contractors, and, getting our foot in the door with the trade. And we, from a marketing perspective, it's like there's a trickle down when consumers find that, an architect that they like or an interior designer that they follow is using our product. But then there's also the trickle up where you have the very health conscious consumers who are going to their interior designers or their painting contractors and saying, hey, I just learned about this product. It's much healthier, for my family, for the environment. I want to use this instead. So it's a little bit of both, but both markets are equally important, I would say.
I guess, but I'm wondering if the design trade is more apt to understand the story. You know how in a post-pandemic world, it actually was prior to that. It was millennials. Millennials wanted a story in everything that they surround themselves with. And I think designers are more inclined to share that story than just someone like someone who's price conscious is not going to be an Alchemist paint client, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you can go buy a $30 gallon of paint and you're not open to seeing the benefits of, choosing our paint, which costs a bit more, then yes, absolutely. But we need to have architects and designers advocate for us too, particularly on larger jobs, like I said, because someone will come in and, look at the bottom line. And we talk to so many contractors and developers, and the nice paint, the fancy finish is always the first thing to go. So we do need, we've talked to so many people on, huge jobs and small jobs, and it's always the first thing to go. So we do need designers and architects to be the advocates for us and say, this is why it's important. This is why it's crucial to have this paint in this building. But particularly on commercial projects where you're going for LEED certification, well building points, living building challenge, United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, like our products are far more contributory to those standards than domestic certifications like Green Guard, GreenWise, Declare, because we have cradle to cradle certification, which is the preeminent, most comprehensive, stringent environmental certification in the world.
I also really like to challenge the conversation about like being price conscious, because I think when you think about paint and you think about conventional paint, yes, you can go out and buy paint that's $40 a gallon from Home Depot. Like, however, if you are talking about painting your wall in something that's a dark color, and these contract painters that we work with tell you they use 6 gallon, like they use 6 coats of paint for a red wall, right? So that's 40 times 6. That's $240, right? You use 2 coats of Alkemis paint that doesn't need a primer unless you're going over new construction. It is literally the same amount, except what you're saving is days of labor, right? Because now somebody can do a project with 2 coats of paint instead of 6. And when you think about the split of materials versus labor, I mean, of course, if you're doing it by yourself, you're going to have to spend a week painting your wall, right? And you're probably going to spend the same amount of money. But if you're hiring somebody, you're actually saving money because they're not going to be on the job as long. And then not to mention, okay, this is your home. You spend 90% of your time in it. You dollar cost average, it takes on average 2 coats of paint, like 2 gallons of paint for a 300 square foot room. You dollar cost average that over 20 years, the space that you spend most of your time in. Is it not worth $240 to you to optimize for your health in a place that you are in all the time? Like it's so, it'd be one thing if the paint was like $1,000 a gallon, but and maybe, obviously I'm biased because I'm the CEO of the company, but when it comes to your health, like these are things that, everybody, and maybe it's coming from a very privileged standpoint. I get that, but I do think that it's thinking about investing in your health as a priority. And that's just generally true, in my opinion.
And those are the things, like Maya said, like those are those perspective shifts that we think it's really important to talk about and like Maya said, challenge and bring up to people and just think about, because I didn't think about it. Maya wasn't thinking about it prior to this. So again, just bringing those conversations to the forefront.
Well, I think it's important, and it's important in context, because it's not necessarily about saving a couple $100 on paint per room, right? It's like your appliances are now going to be at least 6 to 12% more expensive. That's just this year. And then if tariffs roll out, then add a 25% to that. Respecification. You can't get this product, so now you have to order that product. It all adds up. And then you have a designer or a contractor who says, okay, here's the bid, and now the bid is X% greater. And it's not just tariffs. It's the cost of everything, like between anything you watch on the streaming platforms to virtually anything else when you go to the store, the cost of everything seems to be going up exponentially. And I wonder too if how that affects the quality cost ratio relationship. Do you know what I mean? It's you have to really consider that. And we're talking about
Mhm.
it just from a business standpoint. From a product standpoint, like I totally get it. You have a beautiful product. It's built to last, and that's great, but it doesn't really matter if you can't get it on the walls, right? And so I'm just curious, especially, and I think if you were a company that had been around for 15 years, you would have this base knowledge to say, well, we've been through this and we've been through this and we've been through that and we kind of understand it. How do you make sure that you get to that 15-year mark when things are as, and look, if this was 4 years ago, well, maybe we would have been having this conversation 4 years ago because that was a pandemic. If this was 10 years ago, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. Or even 2 years ago, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. And in 2 years from now, we might not. I think what's interesting is, and I talk to a lot of brands, how to get that brand to become widely specified. And it's more than price,
Mhm.
right? It's getting the word out. And there's two of you, and like, how do the two of you, aside from doing things like this and going to KBIS and working with other shows, how do you get the word out? How do you get paint on the wall so that consumers can now understand what it means for their spaces and that designers understand that you have a product they can trust?
You want to take that, Maya?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're really proud to have done some incredible commercial projects, so far, and to partner with some incredible design galleries. Like as mentioned, we were the official paint partner of Design Miami for the last 2 years. We're about to do a project with one of the country's foremost art institutions, and work with one of the most prestigious architects in the world. We've done collaborations with brands like Cause, which is H&M's sister company. We work with design galleries like R and Company, Maison Royer, and we'll just continue to do more and more. Number of hotels, restaurants, like we'll just continue to do more and more projects where people can, of course, we can't let people into our private residential projects, but in public commercial spaces, people can go, they can experience the paint. And usually, people are seeing it for the first time in these types of spaces, and they are almost always noticing the fundamental difference in the quality of the coverage, as well as there have been people, completely unsolicited mentioning that they feel more grounded in spaces that are painted with Alkemis, or that there's something really luxurious about this paint and they can't really put their finger on it. And I have some ideas about, what that is. Another thing to call out, and that, we're really excited about is we did our first painting certification program 2 weeks ago with 6 of the country's best fine finishers that have been working for 25 years. And to see them utilize our product was actually a wealth of information for us because the paint is made out of stone. They were able not only to roll it like a conventional paint or spray it like a conventional paint or brush it like a conventional paint, but you can also trowel it like a plaster. You can also brush it and polish it like a Venetian plaster. And you're able to get those types of super luxurious finishes for a fraction of the cost that you would spend for plaster. So, I mean, we're working on this, but we're going to be doing a campaign around the fact that it's one paint, many applications. And I think that that is particularly interesting as well to the design industry when it's like, okay, it's healthy for you. There's a lot of different ways to apply it, but if you're a painter who is certified and being able to apply it not only in these standard ways, but also in these decorative ways, what an opportunity to create a business around that or add to your additional business that you already have as a finisher. And certainly for your customers, the ability to get a Venetian plaster like finish for, half to 1/3 of the cost is a huge opportunity as well. So I think it's just, continuing to do what Price and I are doing, being on podcasts, being in a bunch of different magazines, sharing our story. But I will say that telling people, would you rather paint your walls with rock or plastic? It's really resonating because there's such a conversation right now around PFAS, microplastics, wellness, what this is doing to our fertility, what this is doing to people getting cancer. Like none of us can close our eyes and pretend like climate change isn't happening. We all see it. None of us can pretend that we haven't been hearing of friends and family getting cancer at much younger ages. None of us can pretend that we haven't either personally or somebody that we know been affected by infertility problems and this type of conversation. And so like it's not like we're the first people talking about this. It's just that we're the first people talking about it in this category. So once designers and consumers go and they see it and they see how beautiful it is, and more people are specifying it and more, reputable commercial spaces are using it. Our hope is that we don't have to do as much convincing because it's kind of obvious.
Yeah, and we're in the process of, you said, I mean, we're a very small but mighty team, and we are in the process of building out our team, which is very exciting, and bringing people on board to continue to spread the message. And I think it's really a combination, like Maya said, of these really aligned partnerships to bring awareness to our brand with, the networks that those other people have, as well as, really like boots on the ground, organic word of mouth stuff has been such great conversion for us, like face-to-face time with designers. And then, we live in a digital age. So having convincing and beautiful branding and visual communication from a digital marketing perspective as well has been very, very positive for us also.
Is the most fun that you guys have, would that be the naming of your paint colors?
It's definitely up there. That was one of the most fun exercises for sure. Besides creating the colors, I mean, the most fun exercise was creating the actual palette. And then, additionally, once we had all the colors, then naming them. It was such a fun exercise.
And I'm not kidding. I think paint names, just back in history, like paint names, you could go and look at the paint names and wonder, how did this particular shade get that particular name? And in looking at the names of your colors, like I genuinely love it. And I'm wondering if it's just me or if there is some musical references being made in a few of them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're huge music lovers. We're huge art lovers. There's everything from musical references to geographical references to literary references, all things that, across the board that have inspired us throughout our life.
It's funny because it's not lost on me. Like I was looking, I really went through every color you guys have, and I think it's great. There's actually 120 with the primer, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across Pressure Drop, and I'm wondering if that was Toots and the Males.
Absolutely.
Okay. All
Thanks,
right.
Toots.
I'm feeling so good about this right now.
Huge reggae fan, like huge reggae, huge dub fan. It's funny. It's like, that's the only music, like when I'm really in the zone working, I can only listen to dub or reggae.
It's so funny. Rock Lobster, B-52s?
Yes.
Please tell me.
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me about your trade program.
You want to jump into that, Maya? Oh, are you frozen? I'll take it.
Sure.
I think we
you
had
guys
I
still
think we had a lapse there. Yeah,
Oh,
there
yeah.
was a little freezing, but go for it.
So, we have an incredible trade program that's available right on our website. You simply just go in, sign up. You'll get a free Alkemis fan deck and 5 free 8x11 samples of your choosing. In addition to that, 15% off any future orders. As mentioned, we obviously offer gallon sizes. We also have 3.5 gallon sizes for added cost savings. So with your trade discount, if you're ordering in bulk, it really gets the cost down to about $91 a gallon, which again, pricier than something from Home Depot, but like probably in line with like a Benjamin Moore Aura that you would specify. And then, of course, dedicated trade support. I think that one of the most important things in today's modern world as AI takes over is that there's no real substitute for human interaction. And we're always really trying to do our best, for our trade clients to make sure that they're supported, that they have technical information that they need, and not just them, that their painters, their GCs, everybody along the chain is being supported to make sure that you get paint when you need it and that you know how to apply it, and all of the above.
And as far as distribution goes, um, you know, part of the benefit of being distributed through an Ace or a Home Depot or a Lowe's or any big box really is the convenience of it, and that just is what it is. What is distribution like for you, and what is the experience like for specifiers?
Yeah, so right now, everything is available exclusively on our website. And that's purposeful. And I think there was a big shift, especially during the pandemic. Everybody got used to ordering things online. It still is, it can be a pain point for some contractors, right? And it's just, again, helping them shift the perspective from, okay, it's painting day. Let's get up at 6 a.m. and go to the local hardware store and buy our paint, as opposed to working with our team and backing into those painting schedules. Our production time is 3 to 5 business days prior to shipping. It's not egregious. And just, again, assisting customers to back into those painting schedules, make sure they have everything on time. And the reason why we, consolidate everything into one production facility is so that we have such exacting production standards and exacting, color standards. So really being able to maintain that control. We have talked to, all different types of, kind of franchise, where you franchise out your mixing equipment and so on and so forth. And what we've found, not all the time, but sometimes, is that there are nuances and discrepancies that particular, locations will have. So you have to go back because it doesn't actually match the original standard. You have to go back to that one place to get it to match. So we just want everything coming from one place at this juncture. We have all sorts of ideas and plans as to how to expand that down the road. Whether that's pop-ups, bricks and mortars, partnerships, so on and so forth.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I love that. And it was great. I'm appreciative that you both made the time to come on the show and talk about this, because I love new products. It's getting harder to find new products and services. You know what I mean? Like for a while,
Yeah.
it was much easier because everyone's out there on the internet, you're doing social media. And because now that everyone's doing the same things in much the same way, it's gotten harder to find new products and services. So I love this. I love what you do. And I'm appreciative that you came on today. Thank you very much for making the time.
We're so grateful, Josh. Thank you. I mean, obviously, we're super passionate about what we're doing. And so any opportunity we have to talk about it more, we're just incredibly thankful. So thank you again for having us.
The Design Hardware Showroom is a space where specifiers can go and find an incredible selection of high-end faucets, luxury tile, natural stone, wood floors, and bespoke hardware, and so much more. Select products are presented in a holistic manner, strategically arranged to stimulate creativity and transition your vision from the conceptual stage to a fully realized space. You will find everything you're looking for, even the products by brands you didn't know you didn't know. Surprise and delight. Am I right? all under one roof on 3rd Street in Los Angeles, just up the street from the Grove. Conveniently located, free parking available. Stop by to find inspiration, collect samples, get expert advice, and tackle everything on your specification list all in one place. Visit them online at designhardware.com, at Design Hardware and Flooring on the socials, or in the real world, 6053 West 3rd Street in Los Angeles. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, Price. Alkemist Paint. And if you're like me, you're walking away from this conversation with a renewed sense of what's possible in the world of design materials. Alkemist isn't just making paint. They're making a statement, one rooted in health, sustainability, and the kind of creative authenticity that sticks with you. From CO2 absorbing finishes to culturally inspired hues. They're bringing an entirely new mindset to the surface of modern interiors. And that's important. If you're a designer, architect, or even a homeowner thinking about your next project, consider what Alkemist is doing. It's more than a product. It's a philosophy. In a world where every choice we make leaves a mark, right? It's refreshing to find a brand that's thinking far beyond the brush. Thanks for listening to Convo by Design, where we have other brands who are thinking beyond the brush and thinking beyond the business. Thank you to my partner sponsors, TimberTech, Pacific Sales, Design Hardware, all amazing brands. And my hope is that you will consider working with them on your next project. And do me a favor, please continue to share the show with your colleagues, friends, family that you think might enjoy it. And don't forget to send me an email. If you have a guest suggestion or a show suggestion, it's convobydesign@outlook.com, and join in the conversation on Instagram at convobydesign. That's with an X. I hope this show helps you stay motivated, inspired, and focused so you can rise above the chaos that has arrived in earnest. And it's affecting everyone. It's not just you. Might be helpful to know that. Have a great week.